Welcome to the Nevada Patriot Podcast with Matt Sadler.
Welcome, all you listeners, to the Nevada Patriot Podcast with Matt Sadler. I am so thankful for you listeners right now on KPFF 97.7 FM. This is where the First Amendment lives. Also, thank you for tuning in on the NevadaPatriot.com, YouTube, Rumble, or whatever other platform you find us on. I know your time is valuable and you could be doing other things, so I'm honored to spend a bit of time with you today. It's no secret that there's room for improvement in our town, in our county, and obviously in our state and nation. I think a cornerstone to making our community better, sustaining it and preserving it for generations is this: transparency. Now, I can tell you from my experience in planting a foundation in my native city of Las Vegas for the first 40 plus years of my life, and then moving to Nye County in 2019, there's a different dynamic in how the public engages the political process. On balance, I mean, not with every single person, but on balance, folks in Pahrump tend to be more active politically. Now, part of that is a function of being a smaller town, a smaller community, not as many competing activities and things for our families to get involved with. But part of that is the culture out here. We are not a suburb of Las Vegas. We're not looking to just hitch a ride on the train of a big metropolis. That's not who we are here. We are, by and large, more conservative, for sure, more traditional, and I'll say this, more tolerant. So don't believe the mainstream media when they characterize towns like ours. For instance, just because I don't, I'm a Pahrumpian, so just because I don't love people's opinions when they collide head on with my values, that doesn't mean I'm intolerant. So I'm a firm believer. I'm a First Amendment guy. Not everybody's going to agree with me. Not everybody's going to agree with you. Tolerating and giving hearty approval are two different things. There are many things in this world that I tolerate that I don't need to give hearty approval for. And I shouldn't be demonized, and you shouldn't be demonized when you don't heartily approve of people's behaviors, of people's, in my opinion, sometimes sinful, morbid, or unethical behaviors. You see that now in all over our country, right? You see it dividing people. You see on display full-on hatred for traditional values, things like that, where if the shoe was on the other foot, you never really saw that. I never really saw folks in the 90s and the early 2000s parading around and making fun of alternative lifestyle cultures, the homosexual community. We weren't doing that. There was, and I read it, every day you'll read something on Facebook or on social media that, I've been tolerant for this, I've been tolerant for that, but now you've gone too far. Now you're coming after our kids, and you can't really blame segments in our population for feeling that way. I feel that way. And in fact, if you look at unbiased news reporting, and you're not just getting your information spoon-fed from places like CNN or other, mainstream, and now mainstream is becoming synonymous with leftist or progressive news sources. If you're not getting your news from those sources only, you're seeing it on full display that there is somewhat of a coordinated offensive being directed toward the younger people in our culture. And this traditionally, up until recently, was something that you would normally see at the college level, the university level. So once the kids are, done being reared by their parents and put in elementary school, grade school, up through high school, then you would see this this turn, like where they get the liberal professors or these, wow, I'd never been taught Karl Marx, and this makes a lot of sense. And, they never taught me about Darwin, and maybe this is right, and maybe that X is right. And, Che Guevara was actually a freedom fighter, and all these like radical ideas get normalized in college. Well, I hate to break it to you folks, but that is being done a lot earlier in the process. That's being done oftentimes at the kindergarten and first grade level. So I made a joke with my wife not too long ago that, and this is a sad reality because as a product of the public school system, I think I somehow got an okay education. I wasn't completely destroyed by my teachers and any agenda pushed in that school district. But I made a joke and said, I don't know if I'd rather have my kids just stare at wet paint for 6 hours a day instead of putting them into public school. And that's a sad indictment because I know some of you are teachers or your families are teachers that are doing a good job, that are working hard, that are basically swimming upstream in a river full of just filth. That's how I put it. That's how I kind of compare the good teachers doing a good job versus all these forces coming against them. That's warring against you good teachers. That's warring against our children. And in all honesty, I'd rather them look. I'm a homeschool parent. I would rather they look at wet paint 6 hours a day instead of put them in a public school. And oftentimes that can translate to a private school and even charter schools, even Christian private schools. Don't think I'm sitting here just warring against a secular education because I received a secular education. Professing Christian schools sometimes may or may not be any better. Religious schools don't necessarily equate to better moral teaching or the students mastering subjects. So that's not where I'm going with this. So don't think I'm just banging on the teachers here. So in other words, I'm getting way off the track here. So you can't really believe the mainstream media the way they characterize towns like ours. So up until recently, I would consider myself about as tolerant as you can be. But I guess times are changing, though, I'd say. And I will put this out there, that the silent majority, which I considered myself as part of that. You hear that talked about through the Reagan administration and in other times. The silent majority needs to be a little more loud, I would say. So I don't want to meander too far from the show's premise, transparency. So because a place like Pahrump is more active politically and socially, we really need transparency from our officials and from our leaders. Are we getting transparency? Or often, are we basing some of our convictions on what I call less than the whole truth about how things operate? If you're asked about your take on the performance of our lawmakers, the criminal justice system officials, the elected boards, or whoever, are we getting a complete set of facts and information to form an informed opinion? Are important details filtered out? Are our inquiries screened and culled like imperfect wood at a lumberyard? Could our core convictions be based on half-truths, media-crafted narratives, and worst of all, and most insidious of all, omitted information? Yeah, I'd say at every level, we are not given transparency. At the local and national levels, both. And you could say at the micro levels, to the state level, countrywide, we're not getting the whole truth. We're not getting enough truth, enough information, enough sets of facts, so that we can have informed opinions, preferences, and convictions. Oftentimes, in our culture now, you can see people that have very firmly rooted convictions. I mean, it seems they're embedded like an oak tree with deep roots. They're not going to sway at all, but they're actually basing a lot of their presuppositions, a lot of their thoughts and processes on misinformation. For all the efforts of social media to be the great bastions of information and fighters against misinformation or disinformation or whatever you want to call it. They're really dropping the ball. We actually are in a position in our culture, in our society, where you and me, or people like us, we have to actually fight, dig, and research for the truth. In times past, that wasn't always the case. Now, I'm not saying that, old journalists from the 70s, from the 80s, even before that, didn't have an agenda. But above all, there was a certain set of standards that journalists used to be truthful, to be honest, to fulfill their Bill of Rights type of contract, or kind of fulfill that First Amendment role to be holding our government accountable, holding our officials accountable, giving the public good information. And sometimes, yes, it could be steered depending upon opinions and things like that. But above all, they weren't flat out omitting and leaving out pertinent details, and they weren't flat out lying to us. And oftentimes, that's what we're seeing now. So, what ways do we make it better? We're going to get into some of the solutions after a quick break, and we will be right back. Please stick around. Veterans Crisis Line. Dial 988. Veterans Crisis Line. Dial 988. Then press 1. Someone is available who cares. Someone is available who will listen. Someone is available who will help. Veterans Crisis Line. 988.
Why I'm Proud to Be an American by Devin Craddy. 158 years ago, our amazing 16th president, Abraham Lincoln, wrote a very powerful speech called the Gettysburg Address. In this speech, he told us we should honor the deceased by continuing to fight for what they died for during the Civil War, which allowed us peace and freedom in America, which is why I'm very passionate for our country. We will always fight for what we think is right. This message brought to you by Matt Sadler.
And welcome back. Thank you for standing by. So before the break, we were talking about the ways that we can make things better. So if you're kind of new to this show, or you've never heard from the show, I don't spend a whole lot of time in the abstract, although I'm kind of an idealist. So obviously I have these big picture ideals, but I don't really want to ever push people to calls to action, to send out gripes, or to do things that aren't efficient, that are not practical, that are just symbolic. Although, I mean, there's a place for that. Don't get me wrong. I've been in a few rallies here and there. I've stood out and I've held signs. There's a time and a place for that. But a lot of what I'm talking about, what I am kind of proposing here, are practical, real life things that we can do. And these things that I'm going to talk about aren't necessarily the brainchild of me per se, although maybe I've had some effect on how these things are kind of played out. But there's a lot of folks in and around me I seek counsel from, I get ideas from, I get advice from, and obviously, a big portion of what makes me who I am is the one sole authority that I kind of bow down to. It's the Word of God. It's God. It's Jesus Christ. So ultimately, if things are unbiblical, I'm not a proponent of any of that. And that the Bible's huge. It speaks into almost every avenue of life. So there's almost nothing that I can think of on the show that I can talk about, topics, whether they're controversial, whether they're important, that don't fall under the umbrella of what does the Bible say about this? Where's the biblical wisdom? And I think there's a lot of biblical wisdom on being, patient, on being precise, on being gracious, even with people who disagree with you. So the way that I found in life to get things done, and it does not involve selling out. I've never sold out for anything in my life, and nor do I want to. So you can't mistake diplomacy or grace or my ability or my wanting to listen to both sides of a situation. Don't get that twisted and think that because I'm not trying to be everything to everyone. I have firm convictions. I have firm firm opinions on a multitude of things. But what I want to kind of impart to you is one thing that's kind of been on my heart lately, and on the hearts of probably everyone out here in Pahrump that are subject to, Valley Electric situation, right? So very, very often in my daily life here, I'm talking to people, and not almost no one is happy with the way that their bills have been rising, with some of the things that have gone on within the structural organization of Valley Electric, the VEA, as we'll call it. So I don't have to keep saying Valley Electric Association every single time. So we'll just kind of abbreviate it with VEA from here on out. But what I'm finding, and as objective as I try to look at things, and believe me, I know people that kind of work within that framework of that company. These are friends. These are people that I look up to. So I'm not, don't get this twisted and think that I'm characterizing anyone who works for VEA and anyone who's maybe even in any kind of leadership position to make it seem like these are malevolent, evil actors, because that is not what I'm saying. I believe that oftentimes in any job, any profession, official, magistrate, courtroom person, or, peace officer, yes, they're in positions of public trust and things like that. But at the end of the day, a lot of these folks, they're just trying to do the best they can at their job within the confines of their job description, of their supervisors, of management. So I'm not, don't think that I'm demonizing a group of 130 plus employees, basically. I'm not. I think many of you are doing a good job. If there's something wrong with the structure of an organization, it doesn't necessarily mean that the individual members of that organization are flawed. Sometimes they're just stuck in a system. Like if you're stuck on a bad sports team and you lose 70 out of 82 games, you can't pinpoint that on any one of the players. It could just be an organizational matter or team ownership, team management. So that's where this is going. I have a problem in that I do not believe, in my heart of hearts, I do not believe that we have the transparency from VEA that I think we deserve. So rather than just, I'm not going to go on Facebook or encourage people to yell and threaten and say, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to get everybody on the board fired. We're going to do this, replace the CEO. I'm not calling for that. We're starting at the foundation to solve a problem, because if folks don't oftentimes understand why their bill's going up, why the public doesn't have access to particular documents or whatever the case might be, you can't just say, hey, this information's on our website. You refuse to look at the website. It's all there. Well, oftentimes, maybe what's there is what the powers that be want us to see up there. And what we want to see and how we want to have transparency might go against the official platform of whatever the leadership of VEA wants us to look at. It's the same thing with the media. It's the same thing with our elected leaders, right? Sometimes they're acting like they're showing us the pantheon of who they are and what they believe in, but they're showing you what they want you to see, not everything that is there to be seen. So in my book, when we're pushing for transparency, when we're pushing that envelope, you almost can never have enough transparency. That's like saying that I can't go to this restaurant because the food is just too good. I mean, every time I go there, the food gets better, so I'm going to stop going there because I just can't handle so much taste and flavor. No, you can't have food that tastes too good, and you can't have an organization, a leadership structure that's too transparent. I think that's the key. So how do we gain transparency when efforts up until now have been not extremely fruitful in gaining the transparency? So what I'm kind of advocating for, and not that I'm starting this petition, but I'm more than happy to be a proponent of it, because I'm of the position I won't hide anything from you because I got nothing to hide. So, I ran for office. I do things. I'm in the public limelight sometimes. I don't just sit there and delete Facebook posts and stuff. I'm not going to sit there and regret something I might have said on a post in 2018. If it gets brought out, oh, did you see Matt's comment on this?
he really took it to this to an extreme. And is this really professional? Is this conduct becoming a person running for, like, I could care less. Very rarely have I said stuff publicly or on social media that I regret. Very rarely have I answered a question in any kind of public format that I regret, because if I'm being honest, how can I really regret that? Now, my tone and different things like that, yeah, I can regret. If I'm too harsh with something, I might wish that I said something a different way, or maybe didn't use a certain set of words, but I'm not going to just outlay a conviction, a strong opinion, and then based upon how that lands on people's ears, decide I'm going to change course. Our officials do that all the time. I don't know if you read some of the social media posts from some of our elected officials. It seems like there's questionnaires out there like, well, how do you feel about X, Y, and Z coming? And what they're doing is they're taking a poll to base their decision and their governance on which way the wind is blowing. So, you know that old adage, if your friends jumped off of a bridge, would you do that too? Well, that's kind of the way our elected officials are. It's like, if they do a poll and they ask their constituents if many of them want to jump off a bridge, are they going to jump off a bridge too just because they say yes? That's the feeling I get. You know, I'm not one to be rebellious against leadership, but what I do demand, I'll follow people. I'll follow them into battle. I'll follow them into war. I'll follow them into whatever place we need to go if they're good leaders. If they're not good leaders, I'm not following them anywhere. And I think in our community, in Pahrump, Nye County, Nevada, we deserve good leaders. We deserve a good cooperative in our for our goal of having the least expensive electricity, because that ultimately is the goal of a co-op when it comes to our electric service, is securing the best rate and the best performance for its members. And that's us. We're the members / owners of the co-op, right? So the co-op exists to make life easier on we the members. And that's not to say that some members of a co-op or any organization can be a pain in the butt. You know, I'm sure I've been a pain in the butt, and I'm sure there's pains in the butt right now that might be unreasonable. But that doesn't mean VEA does not have a fiduciary duty to be transparent to the members' requests. So the petition that we're going to be circulating, or that I'm going to facilitate in whatever way I can, is a petition for a forensic audit. Now, typically forensic audits can cost, thousands or tens of thousands of dollars actually to have them done successfully. What we're proposing through this petition is a forensic audit that the auditor is actually going to be performing the services really at no cost to the membership at all. This will not affect member rates, member contributions, nothing like that. So when this petition is circulated, it's going to just simply kind of require the membership number, the signature, maybe a couple other details on the questionnaire or on the petition, so that we can get the sufficient amount of signatures from members of the cooperative so that we can initiate a forensic audit. So that audit would probably be down the line somewhere around September or so, by the time, we can probably get this in motion. But the way I'm looking at it and is not necessarily like, oh, we're going to do this audit and we're going to find all these horrible things and people are going to get fired and heads are going to roll and all that. I hope that doesn't happen. I honestly hope if an audit like this were to be done with VEA, that it would show that they are above board, that things are good, that it would dispel some of the apprehensions that we have as members, that we would be having our minds put at ease. That would be the main goal of an audit like this. Part of the reason why we need an audit like this is because the last membership meeting that's required to be every year, I don't feel like people's questions, opinions, stances were very valued. I think that meeting went on about 3 hours before there could be any real bona fide public comment or any
input from the membership. It seems like, again, it's one of those types of meetings where they're showing you what they want you to see. It's kind of like one of those political commercials that you'll see once, and believe me, they're going to come out when the season starts heating up again. You're going to be constantly interrupted, whether you're streaming video on YouTube or Rumble, or you're watching network television or cable television. Bam, you're going to see the 30-second spots, the 1-minute spots where the politicians are kissing babies and the music's playing and the flags are in the background, and they're showing you exactly what they want you to see. You're not getting the full counsel from what makes this candidate tick. You're getting their best foot forward. You're seeing them in the light that they are constructing. They are constructing that persona, that image. And oftentimes meetings like what we just went through here with VEA, that seems exactly like what they're doing. And there's an inability, and I understand there's 25,000 or so members, or a little less than 25,000 members that are represented with actual, power meters in our communities. And you can't really have, thousands of people formulating comments. But even the place in which the meeting is held, it makes it physically impossible to have what they call a quorum, so that business can be done at the meeting, and there could be votes taken and different things like that. You need like 400 and some odd people to have a quorum established, and the facility that the meeting is handled in can't even handle that anyway. So I'm a big proponent of your time, of the value associated to the time that you listeners and me and our friends and family spend on doing things. Your time is valuable. Your families are valuable. If you want to just sit on your lazy boy at home and watch 5 hours of streaming video off Netflix, sometimes you're better off doing stuff like that than doing things like this, where you're getting involved with what you think to be a good cause, but you're getting really nowhere. You're spinning your wheels. What you're getting, a Subway sandwich, you're getting some food in you, but you can just go spend $5 or $10 and go get some food and go back home and spend hours there. That's how I feel sometimes after meetings like this. I felt that way when I was streaming, thankfully, from my lazy boy, streaming the Granicus videos from the appointment process of the last justice of the peace in December, which I think was a huge debacle, a huge waste of time. It's like you're watching what should be an organic meeting, but it's almost as if you're watching a movie where the ending is already written out, the script is already done, and you're going through the motions. And instead of just 2.5 hours in a Marvel movie theater, you're wasting like 8 hours on a really boring meeting where the outcome is already predetermined. That's how I feel, and what we're going through in our situations like this. And at the end of the day, if you're not hiding anything, what does it matter how transparent you are to someone? What does it matter if the information's out there and you wanna check it out? Open things up. They should be happy that that we're circulating an idea for an audit that would cost the membership really $0. So a qualified person from the East Coast is ready to fly out here and be here for 10, 14 days, pretty much whatever the necessary amount of days to be here to help conduct that audit, to build a team, a support team of some of the membership even to come along for that. So that's what I call putting some teeth to something that can be practical, that would be a benefit, instead of just being angry and calling for heads to roll. I think this is an excellent start. And then what happens is, once this bridge is crossed and we can see this audit being done, then you make a determination on where things go. And hopefully the audit turns out and puts everything in a really good light and explains the whole situation to the satisfaction of a lot of the membership, and we can kind of move on with our lives. But to just constantly shuffle off the public when they're trying to get answers, and if it's uncomfortable, whether it's the CEO or whoever, you got to meet these issues head on. You got to put your big boy pants on, and you got to answer it. And you got to accommodate the members. I did that when I was campaigning. It wasn't necessarily fun to go to
to go to certain events. You get there early, you're setting up your tent, you're putting up signs. I'm hammering them on the highway, or I'm doing all the stuff myself so that I could put myself in a position where I'm sitting behind a booth and an angry constituent wants to come up to me, unload on me, put me in a corner, try to basically berate me if they feel like they see the world differently than me, put me on my toes, make me feel uncomfortable. But hey, guess what? That's what I sign up for when I run for office. And, God willing, if I ever do it again, which I don't know if I'll ever do it again, if I do it again, I'm open to that too. I'm not going to sit here and just handcraft my image and leave it up to a publicist, or just spend a lot of money on marketing, not show up to any events, pay for billboards, pay for commercials, send you constituents the image that I want you to see. No, like, you're going to see the Matt Sadler that woke up at 6 o'clock after taking a bell call at 2 in the morning, get home from the jail at 3 a.m., start setting up a tent when I'm tired, drinking cold coffee or something, and then come at me with whatever questions you want. You want to know how I tick? Just ask me. I'll tell you. You know what I mean? And I'm not afraid to tell you something you don't like. And oftentimes, as long as it's the truth, right? So when we ask our officials, whether they're VEA, whether they're our lawmakers, whether they're our county commissioners, whether they're the justice of the peace running for an appointment or an election, the DA's office personnel, or whoever it might be, they should be willing and able to answer any question at any time, because that's what they signed up for. And since they won't, I think this is why we need to have that petition here. So that petition is going to be on our site. You can find a link to it on the nevadapatriot.com, or which is going to segue into the next section of our talk here, grassrootsconservativesofnevada.com. If you haven't heard about that meeting, that group of folks, we are a group of people. It's nonpartisan in nature. We are made up primarily, and only as far as I know, of constitutional conservative folks. Many of them are Republicans like me, but some of them are not. Some of them are nonpartisan, independent American, or independent. Maybe once or twice I've had an actual registered Democrat come into a meeting, and that's fine. If you're a rational Democrat, you love the country, you love certain conservative values, and you're in the wrong party, come on in. You can join up. Maybe I'll convince you to go ahead and register as a nonpartisan. It's not a Republican club. Not to say that there's anything wrong with the NCRCC. I think they do a valuable service. I'm a member of the local Republican Central Committee, and I think that's important. But I think there's also a place for a group like this. So another plank of what I think can make our community better, when I talk about, how can we make things better? We have all these issues. It's honestly, it's going to be the true vetting and screening of potential candidates and elected officials. So what this group, we abbreviate it GCON, Grassroots Conservatives of Nevada. GCON, that's what the letters kind of spell out. That's one of our primary planks. We're not necessarily a political activist organization. We're not just looking for, things to go ahead and picket and put up signs and pitchforks and all that stuff. That's not primarily what we're about. We're not rabble rousers. We're looking for practical ways to make the community better, and I think that starts in our own backyard, in our own communities, in our neighborhoods, in our town. And eventually, if we get all that stuff right, and we've said it on this show before, and the station operator at 97.7 totally believes the same thing that I do, that we make our backyard better, that we make our towns better, that we make our county better, it can pour over into our state and hopefully into our country. And I hate to break it to you, but we do have a responsibility. We are that shining city on a hill, the United States of America. If we really do go under, the world at large is in a heap of trouble. So things that happen at this local level, being the tip of a spear, being the whatever you want to call it, the little sprig that starts coming out of the ground that can grow into a huge tree. I mean, that could be us. These things could have ripple effects throughout the community, throughout the state, throughout the country that we may not even be imagining. So if you want to be a part of that, we do meet on a fourth Monday every month at 41 North Highway 160, unit number 5. It's the bail bond office. I'd love to see you guys there. I think the next meeting is around that puts it at about it's either the 22nd or the 24th of July. I don't have my calendar open, but it's the 4th Monday in July. And actually, let me pull it up here. It is the 24th of July at 6 p.m. 41 North Highway 160, unit number 5. That's a general meeting. We're going to be setting up committees soon here that will have more focus on the different planks of the organization. So we're going to have a committee eventually here that just focuses nonstop on just vetting all the potential and existing candidates for a range of different positions in our community, whether it's county commission, whether it's the state senate, the state assembly. I don't believe the sheriff's race is up for another several years. So we're not really going to be focused on races that are not coming up in this, that are going to be not included in the next main general election cycle. And along with the candidate vetting, it's also ballot question vetting. So going over all the different pros and cons of certain ballot questions, ballot initiatives that are going to be out there, and also forming practical ways on how we are a group not only to endorse certain candidates or endorse certain positions on the ballot questions, but on how to, engage all aspects of this as what we can do as just normal civilians, normal voters, participating citizens, how we can do a good job in speaking to our neighbors, in lobbying support. Never underestimate the fact that in your casual conversation, you can talk to a couple people. Well, you make a good, compelling debate argument with them. They can turn around and use your points and positions, and they can influence, people at their job. And pretty soon, what you do when you think you're just one person, you have a bigger effect than that. So what we're looking for ultimately to make our processes better, in my opinion, it would be real town hall events, not screened and scripted ones that you can see out there right now. And I know we've had several, and even our Pahrump Valley newspaper likes to promote this as if it's just the best thing since sliced bread. Our state assemblyman has a town hall event. Well, is it really? I mean, do you really, if you've engaged in that town hall, and I can say this because I did, the questions are filtered. There's another moderator. There's probably an agenda there, like, okay, well, these things I don't want to talk about. If people want to put in questions, make sure that the questions that make me sound like I'm really cool and really awesome. Well, is that really a town hall? It's like when we see political debates, are these really debates? I want to have a forum, and maybe it starts, with the Grassroots Conservatives of Nevada group, where we're going to have where we could, I won't say I would, because many candidates do not want to be transparent in the election process. They want to control their image, so they would never actually engage in a real bona fide debate. But wouldn't it be good if we actually had real debates and not what we see on TV oftentimes? I mean, what do we see on TV oftentimes with some of these debates? One person's asked one question. You have 1 minute to respond. Same question for the other person. There's no debating. It's just a Q&A where you're next to each other. You know what I mean? It's like if I tell you I'm going out to dinner with my wife and we're just sitting kind of in the same area, 2 tables next to each other, and we're just not engaging with one another. Are we really? And we're just looking at our own menu. We're ordering. We get our own ticket. We get our own tab. We pay our own tab with our own credit cards. Did we really enjoy a meal together when we were in the same place? That's what these debates are like. And I engaged in one this last go around at the Bob Roode Center. And oftentimes, unless you violate the debate terms, it's not a real debate, which is kind of ironic. Like, you can't really interact with the other party. So unless you're willing to do that and violate the terms of the debate, it's not a debate. So that's one thing I think that would help us. So real town halls where we get real information from our candidates, unscripted, or unfiltered, where you, the citizen, you, the voter, ask your elected official the questions, even the uncomfortable ones that make them feel bad, and make them answer you. same thing with the debates, real debates. Got to put these candidates to the test, and also questionnaires. Obviously, that's part of the process. Formulate a questionnaire that lines up with true constitutional conservative ideals, and make all these candidates answer the question. And then remember when they fall off the wagon and they violate what they said on these questionnaires. Keep track, keep them accountable. One of the other things to ensure that we have candidates that are rock solid, I think, is put them to the test by signing certain pledges. There's one important one out there, and I told this to some folks at the meeting last night. If you're calling yourself a conservative and you can't sign the Taxpayer Protection Pledge, which means you're in elected office, you're not going to sign any legislation or advance any kind of laws or policies that raise taxes and fees on your constituents, you can't even say that you've touched the foothills of the mountain of conservatism if you can't do that. And ask yourself, do our elected officials right now do that? Has our state senator done that represents us here in Pahrump? Has our state assemblyman done that? Spoiler alert, nope, they haven't. So I'll put that out there. They didn't. And you have to ask yourself, why is that? Do you want someone representing you that is all too willing, depending upon the circumstance or expedience, or whoever, the powers that be can influence them, to be able to raise your taxes? Are you guys paying? Anybody out there just want to pay more taxes? You just got some money in your wallet. It's like heavy in your pocket, and you can't stand carrying it anymore. You want to just give it to the government. Well, keep electing who you're electing, and that's exactly what all of us are going to be doing. We're just going to be having money taken right out of our back pocket. My theory is, if you're one of those people, you want to keep voting for these people, you want to pay more taxes, you should be able to give your own donation to the government, give your own donation to the state treasurer. I'm sure they'll take your money. You can probably pay a little extra. I don't want to pay extra, so please don't speak for me. So, and if you call yourself a conservative and you vote for people like that, the problem isn't really those candidates. The problem is you, the voter. Like, why are you doing that? It's ridiculous. So that's one thing to do. Get them to sign a pledge on and it doesn't have to be taxpayer protection pledge. It could be other, issues that they sign a pledge on, and put them to the test. I think that's an important thing. Gosh, we're already longer than I thought we'd be here today. So I'm going to probably try to start wrapping some stuff up. But again, I want to, put that invite out to you. You can reach out to this, to the show, basically, the nevadapatriot.com. All of our shows are archived on there. You can watch all 38 of them in all their splendor. I think they're all on that site. They're all on Rumble. And they're all on YouTube for as long as the YouTube oligarchs will allow dissenting opinion or conservative opinion to be on their platform. Obviously, I'm still a very small fish. I'm not a huge influencer, so they can demonetize me. It's not like I'm monetized anyway. I'm not making any money on any of these platforms. This is basically something that I want to do to get my message out, my voice out, which I think a lot of you. I hope I'm not like a teacher here. I'm not trying to teach anybody anything. I'm just trying to let you know, listeners, that there's a lot more people like us out there than you think. There's a lot more people that are frustrated with our government than you think. I mean, if you're frustrated, I'm frustrated too. I think we're all in the same boat, and we want things to change. And it's just a matter of the best ways to go about affecting that type of change. And I think groups like the Grassroots Conservatives of Nevada are a good start to that. If you don't want to go to Republican Central Committee meetings and you're not a Republican, come to our meeting. We'd love to have you. We got room for 30, 40 people and chairs set up every week. Air conditioners working, so we should be okay for the summertime. If you have any questions on how that works, you can always call me directly, 775-382-2516. That number again is 775-382-2516. 888-888-9416. So with that said, we've kind of covered some ground, and we're going to talk about issues like the VEA. Also at these meetings, the meetings are not VEA meetings. I get called, I think, 2 different times. Why are you having a VEA meeting? And we're with some other group that we're doing the VEA. I could care less. I don't need to put my stamp. I'm not leading any kind of crusade in any one direction. My gosh, if we fix the issues at the VEA, okay, well, that's 1 down. Now we got like 50 to go. Like, there's so much stuff out there. So join in that battle with us if you can. Reach us at the NevadaPatriot.com. There's contact forms. There's all sorts of different contact. There's little buttons that you can click on if you want to send something to the governor. There's just a whole lot of different resources. The petition that we're talking about on the VEA for the transparency thing, for them to allow us to do a forensic audit, will be on that site. So please stay tuned. Please check back. I plan on getting that on to the website in the next day or 2. You can also join an email list and all sorts of different things on that site. So I hope your day is blessed. I hope this was helpful for you. I'm going to let you go. And special thanks to 97.7 FM, where the First Amendment lives. Please tune in Monday through Friday, every night at 6 p.m. There will be a show like this on there. We're going to hear different points of view and different perspectives. Please join us nightly on that. Until next time, Patriots, God bless you.
You've just spent some of the best minutes of your life hanging out with Matt Sadler at the Nevada Patriot Podcast. Thank you for listening. Tell a friend and join us next time. After you catch your breath, check out the NevadaPatriot.com for more content, advertising opportunities, and to give listener feedback. That website again is the NevadaPatriot.com. Until next time, Patriots, stay American.